Crypto Warriors, Stagnation, welcome back to the channel. Top of the morning to everyone. Hope everyone is feeling absolutely incredible on this morning, despite all the insanity that is going on out there in the streets. All right, so today we're going to be taking a look at Bitcoin, of course, my favorite topic, if you will. Double O is still in the motherland. Actually, he'll be joining us back on Tuesday, right? Now, in today's show, we're just going to be taking a look at some updates, some massive wins for Bitcoin, actually. And Forbes magazine drops the most orange pill article ever that I've ever seen in my life. Well, I guess not in my life, but it was just surprising to me, at least, that this was coming from Forbes. And of course, last but not least, we know Elizabeth Warren wants to implement some insane KYC regulations. But how about banning crypto altogether? We're going to be taking a look at that as well. So with no further ado, let's dive right into this thing here. Bitcoin trading this morning at $16,711. This is down about 9% from a high of about $18,387 when we last took a look at it last Monday there. It's almost all week. It's just been trading sideways, or at least that price action has been sideways in a very interesting place. I have a feeling that it might be pulling back from here, but nonetheless, we'll keep watching the activities. Now, moving on here, we have some very, very interesting news for Bitcoin this morning. As some of you may have heard, or if you have not heard yet, Nigeria is looking to legalize Bitcoin usage, right? A report says. This was actually, for me, I think that this is something that is worth acknowledging. Given Nigeria's history with Bitcoin, as you know, over the past year alone, right, or over the past year and a half, I would say, Nigeria has been one of those countries that have made laws, right, put laws in place to make Bitcoin usage illegal. Furthermore, they've put other restrictions in place which stop traditional banks from facilitating crypto transactions. At some point, I think this was actually very recently, they even tried to clamp down on withdrawals, right? So people could not withdraw fiat currencies from their bank accounts to, obviously, capital flight, right? Maybe one of the fears that they were having in that situation. So they reduced the amounts that people could withdraw from their accounts. And of course, a CBDC, we all know that is coming for many countries. Nigeria launched their CBDC, which had a sad 0.5% adoption rate, right? But now it looks like they're changing their tune, it seems like, and I wonder why. So this article, just going to read a short piece of it here, and I'm going to give you what I think, at least part of my theory on this. There's a bunch of things that can be happening that will lead to such a change in tone for Nigeria. And I think more African nations will actually be doing the same thing. Now, a local Nigerian newspaper has reported that Babangida Ibrahim, I believe this is the chairman, yes, the chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Capital Markets and Institutions of Nigeria, claimed the country will soon pass a law making the usage of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies legal. This is a country that was just against Bitcoin not too long ago. Incredible. The bill would amend the 2007 Investments and Securities Act and will recognize Bitcoin as legal capital for investment. I think ultimately, one thing that we have to look at as a whole on a global scale, really, or in any country, is that most governments have their power because the people participate. And this is just my take on it, right? I would like to see what you guys think about this in the comments as well. If the people choose not to participate, right, in the system, then the government has no power at that point. So if the people stop accepting the crony ways of, say, things like central banking, then I think the banks would have to reconsider. And the interesting thing about where we are in life right now is that this is the first time in our history, uh, at least in a very long time in our history, that we've been able to have that other option if we choose not to participate in the traditional fiat system, and that is Bitcoin. I'll give you a good example of this. Well, just kind of adding on to this, despite all the regulations, right, and restrictions that Nigeria has put in place over the past year regarding Bitcoin, we can still see that Bitcoin adoption rose about 880% in just 1 year. I think that was July or June of last year of the previous year to this year. And on that list, Nigeria is number 6 highest in Bitcoin adoption, right, and cryptocurrencies transaction. Now, to wrap this one off here, I think, at least to wrap this topic off, and then we'll look at some comments. I think historically, right, we've seen that over time, people have always chosen what money is going to be. Society has chosen what money is going to be, not a few elites who create money by decree. Sorry about that alert. If you guys can hear that, that was kind of loud. So, and I think governments and corporations have no choice over time, right? If this adoption continues at this rate, I think governments and corporations will have no choice but to try to adapt and interact with Bitcoin as well. The truth is, fiat is dying. Even though they've tried to pivot to a CBDC, right? We can see that all the other macroeconomic factors that have played out over the past couple years and many years really have been constantly killing fiat currencies, and Bitcoin is just the future. So I think this is something that is absolutely worth celebrating here, and a massive win for Bitcoin. You guys let me know what you think in the chat there, because I think this is a pretty cool one. Look at some comments here. Joey, is that Joey Pelletri? Is that you, Joey? No, I'm kidding. Joey Pelletri says people are in late. Right? People getting in. People getting in late are screwed. Oh, there we go. Never mind. I misread that horribly. I'm not sure what you're referring to here, Joey. Please share some more details, my guy. He said, bro, I said that last night when I was listening to someone speak on Ponzi. Let's see. I think I went too far back with the comments. That's from Trex. So actually, peace to you too, Todd. Yes, sir. Good morning to you, BK Crypto in the house. Good morning, sir. They all do the runaround. India did the same thing. This is very true. I know India is one of those countries where they have a CBDC as well. In fact, when we look at this Forbes article, I have a little map here that shows the progression of CBDC all around the world. And you would see countries that are still building and countries that, well, I don't think they'll ever make it, because Bitcoin is just outpacing governments right now, from how I see it. The majority of the sheeple people won't do that. Not yet, I don't think. Yeah, this is true. I think most people would probably try to start figuring this stuff out when there'll be so many regulations in place that it will not even make any sense anymore. It's ridiculous. Now, moving on here, Forbes, right? This is actually a Chainalysis did a bit of some extrapolation, right? Pull some data, and we can see here Nigeria had an index score of 0.26, and the way they did this is to try to eliminate the high frequencies of transactions from first world countries and so on and so forth, and just to see just the adoption rate within the society. And we see Nigeria is 6th on that list there. Now, moving on, we have an article here from Forbes magazine. Now, I do not know that Forbes had some staunch Bitcoiners within their system. Maybe they didn't know, right? They're breaking in. Why countries should embrace Bitcoin instead of their own central bank digital currency. This one is from Roger Huang. And so he writes, and I also add, this underscores the previous topic which we just spoke about there. And he has 3 big points, which I'm just going to reiterate those points, because one thing that we always like to remind everyone here at Stack is the main purpose of why we're into Bitcoin in the first place, why Bitcoin is here. There's a lot of different things going on right now. We have the FTX situation going on and other crypto things going on, which could be a great distraction, if you want to call it that. But we always have to zero in on that use case. And that's why Bitcoin is here. And that's why we're here. And so, as countries around the world rush to think through how to approach the digital transformation of the global economy, so it is very clear. I mean, if anyone does not agree that the global economy is changing now, well, we'll see you when it's late. One common point to look at is the payment systems. This is the biggest thing. Everything has evolved except for payments, and we can see about 18% of global transactions now are in cash. So that is clearly dropping. Now, one of the main points that he brings up here is that Bitcoin brings talent from across the world. And this is something that we've seen demonstrated time and time again, whether you're looking at Nigeria, South Africa, or places like El Salvador, right? So he says, instead of wrangling the domestic talent pools, Bitcoin brings every sharp thinker from around the world across all elements, from economics to technology, and any country that embraces Bitcoin as a standard. I think we can agree to this because when you look at Bitcoin and the way that it solves so many different things, right, there has definitely been a lot of brain power put behind this, and that decentralization is still unbeatable, right? Bitcoin also allows for a country to benefit from the consolidated open source work of thousands of individuals, if not millions, outside of their border that have thought through the hard digital payments / value problems over the course of the last decade. And I think this is one of those reasons why Bitcoin is so solid. You have open source software, many powerful brains working on it, and it's clearly created a system that is superior to the current fiat system. Adopting it is just this war which we have to fight. But until that time comes, I think that we all have that responsibility to inform as many people as possible, to help as many people learn about Bitcoin. Let me know what you guys think about that. Now, of course, secondly, you have proven security and consistency. Of course, you have that decentralized proof of work mining that Bitcoin has, that most other coins, well, actually, nothing else has it anymore these days. I think Dogecoin might still be proof of work, but I got to double check that. I haven't even looked at it in a long time. But Bitcoin is definitely still the most decentralized network. And of course, we have this modernization without being beholden. Bitcoin brings with it a full payment stack, especially if you run a node. You'll see more about what that is, which, by the way, absolutely everyone should run a node. Absolutely important. So it brings about this full payment stack without needing help from a nation state bloc to implement, allowing a country to become truly independent of any polar powers in the world. Lightning allows for private, low transaction and instant payments between different stores and individuals. Lightning is very interesting and is one of those things that I think many people overlook when it comes to Bitcoin. I think people just look at Bitcoin as just this base layer situation, but we've clearly seen that over time there's been a lot of benefits coming from Lightning, and it's just getting started, right? So you have things like the impervious browser itself, right? Peer-to-peer browser, definitely something that is worth checking out, right? And of course, they're not paying for this. Obviously, it's open source, right? This is one of those benefits of open source, right? Having resources made by the people for the people with decentralization. And, Lightning acting as a layer 2 enables things like that. And so this is just overall an article that I think is very important for a time like this, and helping people to understand Bitcoin more. So I'm going to drop a link for this on our Twitter as well, and of course in the comments. So if anyone would like to read more of this, absolutely welcome to. Now, earlier I mentioned Bitcoin was outpacing the traditional banking system. And this is some proof of this. If we're looking at this is a if we're looking at the globe here, right? Everything in purple are countries that have a proof of concept at the very least. Then you have countries that are researching it in green, researching CBDCs, that is, right? Trying to compete with the rapid pace of crypto and Bitcoin. And then, of course, we have the ones that are already implemented it out there in brown. Now, for the countries that have actually implemented, that have that proof of concept, right? You have Brazil, you have China, of course. You have other places like Nigeria and other small countries. The rest of these places are still researching it or still like in that development phase. When I look at this, I keep asking myself, why do we have a bunch of people trying to create something that already exists, right? A bunch of globalists, right? You say, when you look at their agendas with things like the World Economic Forum, it is interesting that they will not go for something like Bitcoin, which is global and decentralized. That tells you, at least it speaks to that ulterior motive with such institutions that we're dealing with right now. And for the final one here, oh geez, it's 9:17 already. We gotta crank this one up. As we know, Elizabeth Warren, right? She's been proposing some, at least she says she's going to be proposing a bill that would require KYC for self-custody. I'm not sure how that's going to work. A lot of these things are open source with people working for free, and we know that code is speech. So there's going to have to be some violations to make some of these dreams come true for these people. But how about taking it a bit further? The US Senate banking chair floats the possibility of banning crypto altogether. I think there's another one which I had some highlights on it here. But now this is Senator Sherrod Brown, right? And he stated that he knows it will be difficult to ban crypto because he thinks if he does so, or if they do so, most of the innovation will definitely go offshore. But I wonder if that is a concern of theirs, if they're really talking about banning it. So the Senator Sherrod Brown, United States Banking Committee Chairman, suggested that the SEC, and he seems pretty, set on this, like something that he's been discussing for a while, the SEC and the CFTC should consider a ban on cryptocurrencies. But Brown also believes that the ban would be more difficult to enforce due to cryptocurrencies' ability to go offshore. But once it's offshore, it's no longer your problem. So I'm not sure why he's still going on with that. But he also called for aggressive actions to be taken against cryptocurrencies and has asked for a government assessment through various regulatory agencies. The SEC has reportedly been particularly aggressive in its approach to cryptocurrencies. I think we'll argue with that. I think the SEC has been tap dancing and fitting itself where it can keep playing its insane game. So I think there just has to be a scrap and a renewal, because when you look at the space itself, of at least the space of regulators, we're looking at people that do not understand blockchain and cannot even relate to it, trying to build regulations around it. I just don't see how this is going to work. Now, as we also look at this, I think that it is very, very important for all of us to really be participating within the system and making sure that our rights do not get violated, because it seems like it's one of those things, right? You see it happening in other countries, and you may not think it's going to happen where you are until it does, right? But a lot of these things that these people are proposing are clear violations of our rights as US citizens. So very touchy, very shaky, very interesting, the angle that these people are coming from, right? So we'll read some comments here before we close this one out, right? Crypto Society says the majority of the sheeple, well, we already saw that one. He says the majority of the sheeple or people don't think of jumping in or researching things ahead of time. Is essentially what he's referring to there, and we'll all join late. So Not as yet, I don't think. The majority of people won't do that, he says. Well, with no further ado, then, ladies and gentlemen, I hope this one was very informative for you. Double will be joining us again next Monday. Have an incredible day, an absolutely beautiful one. And until next time, brazen out.